That's why.
No, that's why we continue normally. I don't do introductions, nothing. It's just a conversation. And then we'll figure out if we share it or not. But we're
Okay.
having a heart-to-heart conversation, so no issue. So that's why I'm saying if you want, we can have it any other time. If not, I'm here happy sharing with you,
No,
which I love.
I am more than happy to show up in whichever situation I am, rather than deferring. I think it's much more human to have conversations when you may not be in the perfect situation, rather than always trying to kind of wear a mask and be in the perfect situation. So
Yes.
I arrive in this conversation with a few things in my kind of day-to-day personal life that are unresolved, and over the next hours and days I shall resolve them with the practices that I built over time. But I am showing up slightly tearful and with my heart hurting for some of the people I was speaking to beforehand.
Yeah, you show up hurtful but courageous, no?
Courageous, yes.
So very courageous, yes, yes. That's the beauty, I think, of having conversations heart to heart. In whatever state we are open-hearted, no? And well, the word that is used a lot is it's vulnerable, no? Vulnerable, from vulnerability, and it's connotated as being negative to be vulnerable, because people cannot see your weakness. And for me, that's not being weak. No, it's really being courageous, really showing up as who you are with your and everything you carry with it, with yourself, no, within yourself, outside of yourself, and that's for me something. Because we are humans, and that's how we are, and we don't have to mask it with something, no?
Well, I've tried it both ways.
I love you, Mark. You're always so.
Well, I'm lucky. I've tried both, and yeah, of masking and being impervious, or particularly me. Like, I remember a mentor of mine saying that humor can be a wall or a window, and
Yes, the window.
I've always been kind of funny, but often I used it as a way to kind of hide the pain that I was feeling, and pretend, and kind of, I mischievously say I was so good at being bipolar, nobody found out, and and now it's just like, yeah, it's better to just show up as real as you can be, because there's always something you find, primarily because, yeah, I tend not to break when I'm open and honest, and when I'm not, and then it builds up, and I get burnout and collapse. So yeah, vulnerability for me is I felt lonely for a lot of my life, because I didn't feel understood, but then that was because I wasn't showing up fully. And the more I've learned to express in the past 2 decades, or however long, I mean, I'm not 2 decades old, but I've been probably by any stretch. But I would say that a lot of personal development work and things like that has accelerated in the past 2 decades. And yeah, it's just like, I mean, I suppose I reflect, why was I so afraid to be myself? What was the conditioning that led to that? And I suppose I've learned to trust it. I've learned to trust that vulnerability. I mean, I don't even see it as vulnerability anymore.
No, me neither. Me neither.
being
The word is
being
very confusing, no?
being human, so we say, is
Yeah,
the phrase.
yeah, yes.
Being human has very, very little downside. I mean, occasionally you get your heart broken every now and then because you trust someone, that then, but I'd rather have my heart broken every now
Yeah.
and then, and being truly open, or as open as my awareness currently I'm sure in 10 years' time, I'll reflect on who I was in this particular era and say, gosh, you were still clothed and wearing a mask. It's a continual
Yes,
process, but
yes,
yeah, no, I don't, being more human, and as I learn more and accept myself and accept the good and the bad as well. The main thing is cured for me over time is that feeling of loneliness and disconnection. I could be in a room of people and still feel lonely.
yeah.
And I think I don't feel that as often.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Of course, at times, um, but you know, it is speaking from the heart, and being able to feel your heart is a solution to that feeling of isolation. And
Yes.
yeah, so I'm pleased that through a process of collapse, rebirth, blah blah blah,
Mm-hmm.
that I've that I've discovered how to how to connect my heart to to me and to the world around me.
Yeah, yes, and I can relate to that. Me too. I was many years now feeling alone and well, being for the rest now, and insecure and so many things at the end. And also other years also being in fear of being alone, no? Which is your how can I be alone? And at the end, now I love being alone. No, the lonely time. No, when you are with yourself, it's very nice. It's very nurturing. It's like what you were saying before. No, it's seeing my heart. No, and seeing inside and feeling, and that's you learn so much from that. Also.
Yeah, no, as someone now who, I suppose when I was younger, I would have craved not being in any place without being with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have three young children, one of them who's
Yeah. Yeah.
autistic, and,
Yeah.
and I'm like, the thing I crave most in the world right now is a day on my own, or or a week to myself, or somewhere where no other human being is, just to integrate what
Yeah.
what life is. So yeah, it's funny how you change as you get older and what you crave. Um,
And the fear
but
we
yeah,
lost, no, the fear
yeah.
we took out of ourselves, we let go.
Well, I remember actually in 2017, 2018, probably the last time I went away on holiday, on my own. I remember going to India on a beach because I'd been like crying in the shower for 30 days or something, letting go of, I was
Wow.
going through a period of transformation. I said, you know what, I've just got to go and deal with this. So it was the middle of winter and it was awful. So I jumped on a plane to Goa of all places and had a little shack on the beach and took a book on loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
and just sat with it for a week on my own whilst diving into the tropical waters to clear all of the
Yeah.
emotion that went up. And I thought that was a very, very good use of time. Didn't really speak to a soul for a week other than ordering food and just that with the
Yeah.
discomfort, being with my own in a beautiful environment, and let go of a lot of it, and just spent some time in the discomfort because I felt it was that craving for connection without doing the internal work of
Mm.
connecting myself was kind of getting in the way of my thriving and well-being at the time, and I just took
Mm.
the time. Yeah, I'd love to give
Yeah.
space, do that. I feel like I need another visit
Mm-hmm.
to a
Mm-hmm.
place
Maybe you need that,
place
no?
like that. But certainly my personal circumstances don't quite mean I get that kind of
Mm.
respite from my daughter. But yeah, no, I certainly um, see the power of solitude,
Yeah.
and what it can give you if you're really really willing to spend the time to listen to the discomfort and the restlessness and all of that kind of stuff. And it certainly had value for me over the years.
Yes. 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 Also for me, yeah. It really is. beautiful. Being able to have that lonely time and look inside, no, and grow, and then relationships, and then it's like you and me today. It's I just remember last time I talked to you, which was the first time when I met you with the coffee meeting. Um, I learned so much from you. Just being there, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, I don't know how much we did. But it
So
was
I never do less than an hour purely.
so there was 1 hour, so it was beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Because I it's not good for me. Like
Mm,
if I have half an hour meetings, I start to get in trouble just because
mhm,
the connection's not deep enough.
mm,
So I gave up all kind of meetings that were less than an hour
mm,
because it fueled the isolation. Because it
mhm,
wasn't really
It was that tuk,
connecting.
tuk, tuk, like this,
Yeah,
serious.
there was no depth. And so, I changed my whole life to never being having a conversation that was less than an hour.
Mm,
I stopped going to lots of group events because it was too surface, and
yeah.
stopped having any. If anybody sent me a meeting that was only half an hour, I just refuse it.
Hmm. Hmm. No, but I can see that. I can see that because I love it to have those they don't feel long conversation. 1 hour,
Mm.
it's not much. If you're talking from the heart, they flow. No, so it's
Mhm.
they feel and you get so nurtured by them, like by this, like now, no, and yeah, that's.
So, we talk about the speed of trust as being the limiting factor in organizations, but trust takes time and depth and vulnerability. And so, I don't get why lots of companies and lots of organizations and lots of people who are trying to get things done, why they try to do quick meetings or they try to just get the things done and they don't focus and develop on actually the trust and the bonds and the relationships that they need. And we spoke about some of this last time. And so a lot of my work with organizations in terms of getting ready for rapid change is the act of slowing down to go
Mm-hmm.
fast. Um,
Mm-hmm. True.
um, and thinking about productivity beyond the day to day, but in the year to year.
Yeah.
And um, it's kind of why above my desk I have a clock on the wall that goes around once a year. Just to
Yeah.
be in constant. I can show you this for
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Show
purposes
it.
of
Show it.
for the purposes of my kind of thing. Whenever I'm at my desk, which is very rare, uh,
But
the
when you
very rare.
pass by.
Yeah, so I have this clock by an artist,
Oh,
um,
wow.
and it has all the colors of the season,
Hmm.
and it only goes
Beautiful.
around once a year. So I'm
Wow.
always it's a phenomenal um, piece of art. And he's spoken on my TEDx stage and things like that. Scott Thrift is the name of the artist.
Scott Rip.
Scott Thrift, as in inexpensive.
Ah.
Um, um, and yeah, he's a New York artist and phenomenally powerful that I have that kind of reminder of, the difference between Kairos and Chronos in
Hmm.
terms of how, and I think organizations that understand time in that duality
Hmm.
are more creative. They can move faster at the speed of trust because they
Hmm.
understand how to spend deep time with each other.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, that was some of the thing. And once and this, I suppose, this was the theme of our conversation last time, is once we're able to be vulnerable with our teams and be open, um, then as leaders, we get um, more collective buy-in. We build more capacity, and there's a burden of leadership in hierarchy that
Hmm.
is unsustainable.
No. No.
Um, and but it's difficult for people like you and me to hold space and support people all of the time to allow others to hold space and support
Mm-hmm.
us. And
Mm-hmm.
I playfully remember calling you
Yes,
out on
yes,
it on the
yes.
last call. So I'm really curious from our conversation, how you reflected on that since that, and what kind of changes you started to make, and what, yeah, as a result of it.
Yeah, you were asking me who's holding you, and you were continuing, who's holding me? I was saying something. You were no, who's holding you? But no, it was very nice, and really, I was very nurtured by the conversation, and I went back. I was only once with my team, no, but I actually thought of doing the whose card, your cards, but since it was a collective event at the company, I didn't do it. It wasn't so good. We weren't um, tied together, let's say. But I spoke to some of them, to one of them, a friend of mine, and I spoke about our conversation because to him, before I spoke to you, to him is the one that I had told him, look, I'm tired. No, I'm tired of holding. And after we had the conversation and spoke more with him, and he was nice. He reacted, not saying about the conversation that we had. I just spoke to him, and he holded me, no. And then I was able, when I saw him personally, I was able to tell him, look, I spoke to Marc, and he told me that, and I felt helped by you. And I just wanted to let you know that I felt helped by you because I was tired of holding, and I appreciate so much you holding me. So
Wow.
yes, it was very nice, very nice.
Who knew, right?
Eh?
Who knew this was available to you?
Yes,
All of this
yes.
time, all of this
Yeah, yeah,
time.
yes, all the time. Yes, all the time. But you gave me the awareness of seeing it, no? And of seeing, and the other thing that I want to use the whose cards, because I think, no, I think um when I do the exercises with the team, I always try to put myself like them, no? But at the end, I am leading the meeting, let's say. So, so one thing I said, okay, let's do the cards one day and see the difference. But I haven't been able to do that yet, because they are in
So
my thought.
they're in your thought. So let's see if I can grab a who card. Let's do one. Let's do
Yes,
it live.
yes, show it
Let's do it
because
live.
yes.
I will find it by running around my house. You're seeing all my mess.
Where they are.
You're living me real. So I'm going to grab a who card. I'm going to find it from my bag. And we're going to do this live, so we get used to it. Just because
Beautiful, beautiful.
this is the way I roll.
I love it. That's the way.
Pure chaos and agile. This is called
No.
agile working. There is no plan, only
No, that's the beautiful. I love that. It's the living now and seeing and
so
just
here
going through that.
here we are to
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
demonstrate the who cards.
uh-huh. Who cards? Yes.
It's a beautiful deck of cards that the guys have put together. There's a web address as well, which is like
Mm-hmm. Whocards.cc.
whocards.cc. I don't know. It's probably in mirrored form. I don't know. So I'm just going to shuffle the deck and then grab a card, and then we can share.
Mm-hmm.
We can share. Right. So I've got a card here, so I'm going to read out. So
Okay.
they're really kind of all literally, just to explain to the recording, they're literally just a sequence, a deck of cards that just ask deeper questions. And the purpose of this game really is to get away from the what you do or
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing into the who you are. And
Mm-hmm. I
that
love that.
builds trust and connection. Um, and so the question that I've just pulled out is, What's the best advice you've been given, and who gave it to you?
Let me think, eh? Let me look into the inside. And one advice, but I don't know.
The
It's not
best
advice.
advice you've ever.
Yeah, it's an advice. It must be an advice, no? Because one thing that I do that has shown me, I don't know who told me, but work. It's doing one thing at a time, not in parallel, but one after the other. So it's Rome hasn't built uh, once, or how is it? Rome hasn't
Rome
built
wasn't built in a day. Yeah.
in a day, yeah. Because I before I was someone that was trying to do everything at the same time,
Mm,
and then I wasn't able to do anything.
mm,
No, the working mode, no, and so I learned that I do one thing, and then when I finish it or I let it be, I continue with the rest one, and that's a way for me to go ahead. But it's an advice of work, so I have to find another advice more into my being, no?
no, but it's like ultimately, if it helped reduce overwhelm,
No, it
then
helps me in
it is.
everything.
It's just so like that is a piece of advice that allows you time, right?
Yes, and
And it will impact everything.
yes, and not work only. Yes, it's in everything, no? It's take your time, don't rush. Take your time, don't
Mm,
rush. When you do, or when you are, or when you're thinking, do that. Don't let other things be pushed in, no? So be really present with what you're doing,
mhm.
no? Because Rome hasn't been built in in one day.
It's interesting. It sounds very similar to the clock art, in terms of
Yes, because it takes
yeah,
you the time.
yeah. So it's like there's a lot of synchronicity between your answer and
Yeah, yeah.
that previous statement. And actually, mine's quite time related as well.
Uh-huh.
Um, the I think the moment of advice from afar, really, it was probably reading a book called The 4 Hour Work Week, and by an author called Tim Ferriss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he ran a very similar business to my first business, which was a kind of health supplement direct marketing company, of which I had, I probably burnt out twice during the 10 years, and he had similar problems running a similar business. And then he wrote a book called The 4 Hour Work Week, which was really
Mm-hmm.
about um, automating and outsourcing and getting things done without taking the time. But the thing that was powerful for me was I've been called lazy my entire
No,
life.
yeah.
And at school, every report was like, has the potential, but needs to try harder.
Mm.
And then for the first time, I'd seen someone that actually had been helping millions of people through working less, and creating more space for life. And from a mentor, it took me 6 months to get off the ceiling after the joy of self acceptance to realize that
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to get anywhere in this world by being anything other than who I am.
Yeah.
And my gift of laziness means I'm extraordinarily good at, there were two gifts I got growing up, which was um, one is to um, find the shortest way to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And two is, which in a busy world is a ninja skill, and
Yeah, yeah.
two was to be able to manipulate other people to do things for me,
Mm-hmm.
and which can be used as a force for good through inspiration, but also can be used as a force for bad. Luckily, you know,
You
I
have
let
the
my
inspiration
values.
part.
Yeah. I focus. Maybe in times when I was unhappy when I was young and things like that, I made it be the latter more. But these days, my cup is full, and I use it to inspire people to um, but yeah, that whole notion of self-acceptance through
Mm-hmm.
being who I am, and I'm just extraordinarily good with time. So
Mm-hmm.
I can work in parallel and do work on 100 things at once, but I'm never doing anything other than seeding possibility in the hearts of the people I speak with. And
Yes,
so
yes, yes,
I can work on 100, 200 things because I have this incredible A, because I don't do anything other than having coffee, and B, because those coffees can be the seed of something incredible. And
yes.
so um, the way I cured my doing 100 things at once was I chose to do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and just be there,
Yes.
be there at the genesis, and uh, yeah, monthly or weekly or bi-weekly with people on that their own journey of doing and being. And really, my whole role in the process was just supporting them in some of the being part.
Mm-hmm.
So I like parallel working because my mind is very parallel, but I get bored by projects and serious working and things. But ultimately, I'm a unique individual, as are you, and what's best for
Mm.
me is completely different to what's best for you. And yeah, um, my laziness is my killer card because in a very busy world, lazy people are the people that busy people should spend time with.
Mhm.
And
But it reminds me of something, no? And because I love to do that also when I am with someone at work, for instance, one of my team members or so, I love to talk to them every week and see what they can do, no? And where I can grow them through their authenticity. And then I make it. I draw the path for them to do it. But it reminds me because when I was in this company after the second year, and one of the partners, my boss, one day said, Jeannette, when I grow up, I want to be like you. And I said, why? And he said, because when we ask you to do something that you don't like, you find someone that loves to do that and
yeah.
they do it for you. And I said,
Mhm.
yes, but it's because I'm growing them, no? At the end.
So, so I call it my Mr. Muscle theory of management.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there used to be this advert for a, for a floor cleaner or something that was called Mr. Muscle,
Uh-huh,
and it was
Mr.
this kind
Muscle.
of
Yeah.
this
I
really skinny
remember.
guy, really skinny guy, and Mr. Muscle loves the jobs you hate, right? And it was the strap line. So I always say I I always say if you're doing something you don't love, you're depriving someone of something they love.
Yes.
And
Yes, that's true.
that is, and so I like to see the world as a big kind of jigsaw puzzle of love, and
Mm-hmm.
that part of the role of a leader is to get the pieces in the right place so that you create a culture of everybody loving what they do.
Yes.
And as a parent in the autism community, and spend a lot of time working with people with autism.
Mm-hmm.
As an example, you have
Mm-hmm.
often people who love to clean, who love to like do the things that we think no one would love, because we're just used to modern life. But then
Yeah.
you realize there are all of these people that genuinely love the things that I would find
Mm.
awful, not just slightly, but just obsessively
Yeah.
love. And And I think that's the wonder of our collective difference, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that as we start, rather than working as individuals, if we worked as villages
Mm-hmm.
and we came together in gift
Mm-hmm.
and we shared our gifts
Mm-hmm. I love
rather
it.
rather rather than in struggle. Part of the culture I think of modern life is that it's acceptable to struggle to reach a destination.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
hope over the next 10 to 15 to 20 years that we move beyond the notion that we earn our spurs in this world by how much we birched ourselves in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's such a, I don't know, Presbyterian way of
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
thinking, or
Yeah.
I married a Catholic. So it's like, as well. And I'm just like, I think intrinsically within my DNA, I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't get why people think. I mean, there's beauty in suffering in terms of but to see it as a permanent necessity. Um, I mean, I often say to leaders that it lacks creativity. That if you build struggle into your organizational practices, like so you're not being very creative.
No, no, not at all.
Because why can't it be fun? Why can't it be joyful?
Yeah.
Why can't work be nurturing?
Mm-hmm.
In a world of infinite
Mm-hmm.
creativity and
Yeah.
infinite possibility. And it just takes people to stand in that, right? To feel that they are worth it themselves, to be held and to help others, and also to believe in the power of infinite creativity, that there is another way. This
Yes.
doesn't have to be hard. What if it was easy, which is one of the other questions in the Who cards, and it's probably one of the questions that I'm most known for, which is asking when people who are struggling,
They come.
what if it was easy? Which is like a complete mind-blowing parallel stroke,
It makes,
painful
yeah, no,
painful
yeah,
brainworm, that when you people who like are addicted to struggle,
yes.
and then they hear my voice going, what if it was easy? What if it was
Like,
easy? Whoa, go away. um, Believe me, that question probably burns me more than most individuals in the world, because I'm the one who has to live up to saying it a lot. And then I arrived in this conversation in struggle, right?
true, true. You
So
said that.
but it is a good I I'd love every meeting to start with that question, which is, what if this was easy?
Yes.
And that we focused as leaders, as teams, on moving with grace and ease,
Hmm.
um, and
It
not,
puts us outside where we are now, no?
yeah,
What was it? Mm, okay, just feel it outside of
yeah,
where you are now struggling.
yeah. And I think, at the moment, I described just before I came into this conversation, um, there's that feeling when presence is there, that the river of life is flowing
Hmm.
gently, and it feels like, like the mouth of the Amazon.
Hmm.
It's powerful but smooth, right? That
Hmm.
is the kind of
Yes.
the river, the presence. And right now I'm going through a moment where it feels like a stream in
Niagara Falls,
high up in
Falls.
the Alps, or like it's like, whoa, I'm kind of living the ungrounded rush of
Mm,
existence. And it's usually because I have tears to shed, or
mm,
something to let go of, and life is speeding up, and I'm not breathing,
mm,
or I'm not slowing down or getting into my body, and things like that. And these phases happen. But that flow of the river,
mm,
of presence, where um life is a series of simple and easy synchronicities,
mm.
that there is no decision to make, because the path is obvious in front of you. And I think most people will experience those things in moments, and then gradually, wisdom is the practice of, over time, learning to be in the river more.
Yes,
Like that's
yes, because we know what it feels to be in the river.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, and we, been floating down the river. And I think all that happens as you get older is that, I used to be lost for decades in the past. Now I'm lost for, days and weeks at a
mm,
time.
mm. Yeah, all no,
uh,
everyone until we learn to
yeah,
flow all the time.
and it's just as you have more of a body memory of the feeling of what the river is, and you cultivate that, and you have more awareness of when you're not in the river, so you
Hmm.
can, breathe and re-guide yourself, or slow down, or all those kind of things. Then, um, life um, um, becomes more graceful. And yeah, I mean, my experience is that productivity goes up, where if you can get a team flowing like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
um like the team of the Who cards is a great example of a team that we've learned to operate telepathically, almost, from grace, synchronicity and from wonder, and that project was conceived in that energy and is being built from that place, and will and is turning into an incredible organization, and
Nice. Yes.
that's self-organizing,
Yes.
but its conception wasn't slowing down,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
to speed up, and for it to operate from that divine place. And it's something that any organization can learn, and especially in the world of AI and all of this possibility and limitlessness arriving, but also this rushing feeling of the world speeding up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and learning to not be pushed
No.
by the restless of the world,
Yeah.
and learning to re-navigate from wisdom and from that find the river as a
Mm-hmm.
leader, as a team. This is the kind of practice of life, and I find when teams get together in circles, or
Mm-hmm.
I use that word because I'm sure you understand it, not necessarily in businesses like long rectangular tables, rather
Yes, true.
with heads of
Yeah, yeah.
whereas for me, all meeting rooms should be round tabled,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
and non-hierarchical. a
Mm-hmm.
different person a
Mm-hmm.
different person
People,
holds space at
people.
different person holds space each time,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things. And so
Yes.
how do you share the holding? How do you take collective responsibility to find the river, and the way the organization works, or the way the team works, and start to bring in that kind of joyful, playful synchronicity and care and wonder.
Beautiful. Yeah. Amazing. I love that. And you made me think of something which when I was sharing before, with the holding, and the part we were talking about that, and what I wanted to do with the team, it crossed and crossed. But now you were talking about that with the round table, and I said to myself that it would be beautiful if every week someone else holds the meeting.
Mm. Yeah, it's a standard practice in organizations that are less hierarchical. There's a
Mm-hmm.
good book called Going Horizontal,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I recommend anyone reads that wants to share their work and become more self-organizing. It shows a load of practices in meetings and things like that and there's many schools of thought that are exploring various
Yeah.
ideas around all of this, and there are many organizations that do it already. But the act of, yeah, becoming less hierarchical, and sharing the burden, and distributing
Mm-hmm.
power, and
Mm-hmm.
and responsibility, right?
Responsibility. Yes.
Yeah, what is exhausting is holding all the time and not sharing the holding, and the simple act of round tables, and
Mm-hmm.
share, and changing the person who holds the space every time, not only shares the burden of leadership, but also develops people to lead,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
which is beautiful.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and so it's a I think it's a tiny, tiny thing, as is asking the who card at the beginning of every meeting. It's a tiny, tiny thing, but over significant periods of time, just these small practices in the way that we gather in our organizations
Mm-hmm.
radically changes the
Mm-hmm.
culture of
Yeah,
the
yes.
organization. So
Yeah.
a round table and a deep question
Mm-hmm.
and a different person holding the space. If a company did that as a practice for a year,
Yes.
it's just that one tiny change, because I'm lazy, so I look for what's the smallest change
Yeah.
that makes
Yes.
the biggest cultural impact, right? And so if I said that every organization changed their meeting practices to a roundtable, a different head, and a who card question at the beginning of every meeting, that company would be radically different in one
Yeah.
year's time.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
I feel a bit odd that people occasionally pay me for such a simple piece of advice.
But because they don't see it,
Right.
they are used to the other type of advices that's so in
Yeah,
their head, and the
and
people
I hate to be the person that, does
breaks
only
them.
offers that doesn't sell something really, 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 really complicated and difficult to implement, and sticks the advisor on a pedestal of super intelligence and importance and all of this kind of stuff. I'm like kind of the laughing clown or kind of village idiot that comes into an organization and points out a really simple thing.
But but Mark, when you do that, for you it's simple. For them, not no,
Yeah.
because they have to change the whole way of doing to go into the being, and also in since they haven't experienced it, for them when you tell it to them,
Mm.
maybe it feels difficult until they do it, and then they see
Yeah.
the simplicity in it.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, I mean, it is an extraordinary gift of mine to find the simplicity the other side of
Mm-hmm.
complexity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it is I don't know how I've got this gift or something like
Because it's
that.
you, you're
Yeah.
authentic you.
Yeah. So no, I recognize that, you know, that it's, I'm claircognizant. I just see this so I took me a long time to understand that I have this gift and other people don't share it.
Mm-hmm.
Um because it, you being able to just instantly distill something to its easiest
Yes.
component is something I've, it's always
Yeah.
been there
Yeah.
for me. And it feels, like I don't know what it's like to be in someone else's body that doesn't
That doesn't
naturally
see
make
that,
everything
no? Yeah,
doesn't
well.
naturally make anything easy, right? But it turns out after 10,000 coffees, that I haven't met many people that can do the same thing, and I'm thinking, "Whoa, that's really weird." And like other
Yeah,
people like
because
really
it's
struggle with complexity and making things difficult and all that kind of stuff, and have no idea how easy life
mm-hmm.
can feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that yeah. So it's taken quite a long period of life to come to terms with the fact that my brain works differently to most people,
Yeah,
and
I'm different.
and most people
I'm unique.
create more complexity and chaos than they really need to.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And they are
and
there
Yeah,
taken by it.
um, and yeah, I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing, but I suppose um, it's yeah. I mean, it's a good thing that I can be of service and support people from struggle into ease. And yeah, the good job is I actually love doing that as well as
Yeah,
being good at it. So
yeah. But I love it. No, I can feel it. I can feel your when you say it, I can feel your heart, not your mind, you know? It comes from the heart,
Mhm.
your service and the uniqueness that you are. The
Yeah,
uniqueness.
the laziness is in my assets, right? And I've long gone as my stories of shame around being who I am, of being lazy and finding the ease and finding the simplicity outside of
Yeah.
complexity. It's a it's something I used to feel, as I said, being conditioned through growing
Mm,
up, being called lazy so many times and things
yeah.
like that. I used to think it was a
Because
bad thing, but
yeah.
I think it's an absolute superpower right now, and
Yeah, it
I'm more than willing to be paid very handsomely to just go in and appear like I'm doing
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and plus because it's who says because laziness, when they say lazy, it's a label and it's a negative label, no? Negative. But at the end, laziness is simplicity.
Yeah.
And simplicity is super positive.
Mm. Well, I mean, if you look at the animal kingdom and say
Mm-hmm.
you go and watch a lion, yeah, like most of what they're doing,
It's
most of what they're doing is lazing around in the sun
yes, yes.
and doing things. And yes, there's a lot of very, very important action that takes place to eat and to do all those things. But there's no kind of self-consciousness that comes with doing FOL. And you look at hunter-gatherer tribes, and it's exactly the same. And so, like, you've really got to kind of ask yourself questions about why
Mm-hmm.
are we the only species on Earth that feels bad about doing nothing
Mm-hmm. Because we are
when
told.
it seems to, from a neurobiological process point of view, and from the every other species seems to design around resetting and
Mm-hmm.
periods of action or periods of thing, and then long periods of rest and recuperation and things like that. And that seems to be part of the design of all kind of species processes, including our own. And then somehow in industrialization and recent history, we seem to have lost, um, how we are even designed from an
Yeah.
evolutionary point of view to rest and recuperate. And if you watch hunter-gatherer tribes, or you watch bonobos or chimpanzees and things like that, then you will see a lot of loafing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so maybe I should start a campaign, to bring loafing back, and from a well-being perspective and things, things like that. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I don't think it's a good. I think that day-to-day human doing mindset is really bad for productivity as well,
Mm-hmm. Right.
especially in the era of AI.
Yeah.
And as you described perfectly, you know, it leads to parallel working, it leads to burnout, it leads to all of these kind of things that, you know,
Don't take you
make me,
anywhere.
yeah, there are a lot of people in this world that live in a hamster wheel that can't see the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
a lot of action taking place.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure how much of it matters.
Yeah. At the end, um, yeah, you lose yourself, no? You lose your time, your opportunities of growing, no? And your uniqueness and everything because you're in a hamster wheel and you don't see that because you're not aware you're in a hamster wheel. There are many people, everyone, I've been there also, no? It's the following and doing. You have to, you have to, no?
Yeah.
And one day you after giving yourself so many times with the wall. No, sometimes I was lucky to have seen that and say, hey, slow down now. If you don't know what to do, it's because you have to rest, you have to be calm, you just
Mm,
listen inside, create, paint until you know
mm,
that your next step. But just don't do because of doing.
mm.
Because it's not at the end you go, you and you have to go back to the almost same place to start over and so because you're not able to continue, no, because you're just doing for the sake of doing.
Yeah.
And it can be much more simple.
I'd rather loaf for the sake of loafing than.
Yes.
Well, actually, what was interesting is that, I've been on this kind of mischief for a while. Yeah, and I just come back from the 4-day week jogging club that I set up with my
Hmm.
community just before week, which is designed, for people. And I didn't even jog this morning, such as the comedy of jogging club. But it's a group designed to create nothing on Friday, and we just hang out and talk and jog together, have coffee
Nice.
together.
Yes.
And the specific thing of that is to be campaigners for the 4-day week,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
recognizing that actually we will learn more about AI together doing nothing and things like that, which will make us more productive. And I used to have this coffee group that probably that influenced the last decade of my work, in terms of transforming systems, islands. I used to have this coffee group on a Monday morning, 10 o'clock on a Monday morning, called Loafers Inc. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and it was at 10 o'clock on a Monday morning for self-employed people, um, to do nothing and remind
Mm-hmm.
themselves why they're self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and so we, as a group of freelancers and people like that, 10 o'clock, when everybody else was starting work and going busy and things like that, we would start the day A, late at 10 o'clock, and B, for an hour or two, we would deliberately do nothing other than hang out. Now, the irony is, I met the person, my co-founder of the last 10 years of my life, that, I became a TEDx event organizer, ran a
Mm-hmm.
globally significant project,
Mm-hmm.
gone on to impact, so many lives. But that genesis of that whole project and the co-founding relationship came from a meeting and a coffee group built around doing nothing.
Wow.
Um,
Incredible.
and so, I say these things not just out of um, provocation. I say these things out of direct lived experience
Mm-hmm.
of exploring the opposite extremes
Yes.
as a contrarian, and seeing the fundamental benefit of how much you can make happen in the world
Yes.
from being rather than doing, and that
Yes.
these two things
Love
aren't
it.
separate.
No.
These two things are not separate. They are part of a cohesive whole. But it takes a lot of faith and trust to slow down, to become more productive,
Mm-hmm.
and to become more intentional,
Mm-hmm.
and to improve outcomes. And that requires a lot of trust.
Yes.
Um, and it requires a lot of trust in the universe, or it requires a lot of trust in humanity and the people around you. But I suppose I've lived both sides, and I'd rather live
Yes.
in the magic and the
Yes.
mystery and in the belief in people than in rationality solely and in not trusting people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think anyone's delusion is correct, but I'd rather live in mine.
Yes. I'm totally with you. I'm totally with you. I love it. It's a great opportunity to thank you and for this conversation, to leave it here. Um, I love it. I'm totally with you,
Thank
and
you.
thank you so much for co-creating from the being, because from here we really do much more than just being here and answering questions that are already pre-established or whatever. No, from the mind, the being is always so much nurturing, so much beautiful, so much magical, and I appreciate sharing with you, being able to share with you your magic.
And so, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, before we press record, um, that you know every conversation I have is divine timing and synchronistic,
Mm.
and I feel much better for it than I was at the
Happy.
start when I
Thank you.
was at the start of the call. So, which kind of proves my point why we carry on and we go through it, because if I had ignored it and just cancelled the
Mm,
call, and because I
mm,
wasn't feeling my best, I wouldn't
mm,
have the benefit of going into the next hour with the sunshine outside, feeling whole
mm,
again. So
Thank you.
as I did last time, it's phenomenally nurturing to be in your energy
Thank
and
you,
be
Mark.
in your space. And I just from the two conversations I had with you, I feel really alive after I spent time with you. So
Thank you. The
thank you for who
same.
you are and what you're doing in the world.
Thank you. The same. The same goes to you. Thank you so much. Love you. Huh? Love you.